The chest would also start moving ahead of the golf ball. And then now what I've done is I've delayed the release of this golf club. I've made it so difficult for me to start releasing it. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I would like to take you through the three main reasons I see players struggle to release the golf club. And what I mean by release the golf club is I mean coming into impact, allowing the face to start rotating and squaring. I mean starting to unload the shaft to get maximum power out of the shots as well. So let's get into it. So one of the main reasons I would see players really struggle to release the golf club and see them come through with a really open face, struggle to get that club face rotating, squaring, is in an effort to hit down on the golf ball. I see a lot of players move both their upper and lower center ahead of the golf ball. Now, we need to have that happen to a degree, but what we definitely don't want is we don't want our upper center, so let's just say our chest, moving ahead of our hips in the downswing. So what that would look like is a player that goes to the top, and in an effort to try and catch ball first or hit down on the ball, what they would start to do is move their upper center too far forward. Okay, so the chest starts moving in front of the hips. The chest would also start moving ahead of the golf ball. And then now what I've done is I've delayed the release of this golf club. I've made it so difficult for me to start releasing it. On the flip side of that, which also isn't correct, but let's look at a player like myself, unfortunately, where I would go to the top of my swing. I would shift my hips excessively to the left. My upper torso would hang back. And now in an effort to hit the ball, I would start getting very active with my hands and arms and actually start missing too far to the left. So although we definitely don't want that part, it's very important to understand both ends of the spectrum. The player that starts to get too far ahead of the ball and struggles to release it, and a player that hangs too far back and is an over-release. So in the middle of those two patterns would be ideal. So if I just show you what I mean by the two centers moving forward, and hopefully I can demonstrate that on the screen here. Struggle to release it, and there you can see I've just left the face miles open as the ball starts to the right. I would also say that was quite a clumpy contact. So what I would say is a really good blend into the downswing is if we would go to the top, I would start to see my lower half move down and forward. Okay, so I'm starting to press into this knee. My hip is starting to move over this knee and ankle as I start to work down. But my head is trying to stay on its original axis point. So providing I've stayed nice and centered to the top, I'd start pushing down and forward till I get to about halfway down. I would say it'd be okay for my head to move forward a fraction, but as long as my hips are still leading. So as I start to work down, I can feel my weight pass forward. I can feel my right foot start to arch inwards and bank as my head stays here. And then through the hitting zone, this is where extension of the pelvis is important. So as I start to come through now, I start to rotate my hips towards the target and push my hips forward, around and up. Okay, so forward, around and up, which would then put me in this swing shape here, where you can see my chest is on its original axis point. My pelvis has moved forward, and then I would move into my finish. And yes, my head can start to move forward from there. So one of the tricks that I like to use is grab yourself a cheap tripod. I got this for about £9 on Amazon, and just start to put that together. And then what I would do is use this part here where the handle goes up and down, and I would just place that in front of me, and I would angle it upwards, and then I would chuck a tour stick in the end of that, okay, and then place it up in the air. So now I've got a really cheap, easy way to align my head here, okay? So I'm just going to adjust that a little bit more, and we are pretty good here. Then what I would do is I'd hit some small shots where I feel like I start to shift my hips almost past this stick, but my head can't pass it. Now, I can only really hit some small shots like this, because at some stage we do need to come out of our posture and move through. But I would start by hitting some small shots against this stick or close to, feeling my hips pass it, but my head doesn't. Okay, so from here, and hit some small shots. Now, for me, that felt like I was really hung back. Okay, so that is a very normal feeling from the get-go. But that's where you can start to press a little harder into that lead side and move forward, because I didn't hit that stick just yet. So let's give it another go. And there we go, I ripped that one there. And now you can start to see that ball is curving back to the left. And the reason that ball is starting to curve back on me is because I've actually let my lower half lead. I have now given my upper body and my arms time to let that club release. It is okay for them arms to start passing through. It's okay for the club head to start passing through. I would say one of the things we also see that stops people releasing the golf club is where they're trying to get too much sharpening, they drive the handle forward, which I'll move on to in a moment. But again, from this angle, I would begin or continue to feel like I go to the top. I'm really passing my pelvis forward as my eyes stay behind this. And I would say it's quite normal to feel my arms lengthen and straighten out the other side as well. So again, I wouldn't play any shots that are past that sawn off follow through. So again, to the top, moving my hips forward, moving my left hip over my ankle, and then pushing and extending through, allowing my arms to release. So let's try that one more time. Really nice strike again there, and I actually got the ball to start a little further right than before. So as I was performing that, and as I started to let my hips shift and my body start to bend to the right, the first thing I really noticed was the strike was much cleaner, was much more shallow. I didn't hit down or steep into that ball as much as I did the first couple. The second thing that was quite noticeable is as I started to shift forward and my head stays where it was, my arms begun to lengthen. My right arm begun to fire. My right arm started to straighten. The club started to roll and release, which is exactly what I'm looking for as we start working through the ball. So that's the first piece, and I hope you found that bit helpful. So touching on the piece I mentioned a moment ago around us trying to get some shaft lean and dragging the handle forward. Now, what's really important to understand with this part is we do want the handle to lead for the majority of the swing, okay? So certainly when we're hitting iron shots, we are looking for the handle to be in front of the club head. Even into impact, we are looking for that as well. But one of the most common things I see is where players start to drag the handle to the left in an effort to get the handle more forward. But as I start to push the handle more forward, it is very common and easy to open the club face, okay? So as we start working into the downswing, we'd start to see a player drive the handle forward for too long, try and maintain their wrist angles for too long, and not actually understand that we do have to let them go at some point. It is important to let these wrists not have this sort of 50-degree angle in here forever, because the first thing is I wouldn't be able to reach the ball. I have to let my hands unload a little bit in an effort for my club head to start reaching the ground again. Okay, so that is quite important. But more importantly, I would say, if you are going to try and feel that the handle is going to pull forward and you like that feeling of your right arm moving across you and you like that feeling of the handle leading and that's worked well for you and you feel you're getting crispy strikes, all I would say to remember is it's important to feel like my hands start to rotate to the left. And as my hands start to rotate this way, or my knuckles down to the ground, you can see how that starts to close the club face, which is another way we can release the golf club. So where I start to come down and I'm feeling my hands forward, my left forearm, my left knuckles need to start rolling to the left in an effort to let the club head release. That will also help you release that club, like I said, and not actually hold on to them angles too much. You will start from here, you can come down, handle leads, and now my left arm starts to roll more down to the ground, and now I can see that club face is starting to release. So let me show you what that looks like on film if I did my handle drag versus the release. So as I start to hit shots here, I'm just going to feel like I drag that handle forward. I never release it, doing everything in my power to try and get some shaft lean. Now, don't get me wrong, a beautiful strike. There it goes. Well, we could just see I've left the blade open and it has started to peel off to the right. Whereas again, what we're really looking for is as you start coming down, if that's a feeling you like, it's important that we let this left forearm, left wrist start to roll down to the left. And now you can see how that really helps my golf club start closing. So let's see if I can perform something similar to that. So on that one there, I just felt like I didn't control that quite as well as I'd like, but you can definitely see the ball's curving to the left. And again, that is where I'm coming down and feeling this forearm start rotating. But I didn't feel that from the top. I got it down to about shaft parallel, and then I felt that go. And you can see how that really affected the club face in a positive way. So the third and final thing that I really see that affects the club head from releasing is the player that tries and succeeds by getting their body far too open through the ball. Okay, so if I was to work to the top and I start to really clear my hips, really clear my chest, what you'll start to notice is my arms start to lag behind me for far too long, and then everything's too open and I really struggle to release that golf club. Okay, so there are obviously limits to getting open. I would say if we was to look at how open we want to get with an iron, we probably only want to get 20 to 30 degrees open in my pelvis with an iron. We don't want to get much more open than that. If I start getting my hips 45 degrees open, you can see I look like this now. And if I was to ask you what type of shot do you think I'm going to hit, I hope you would say I'm going to struggle to release that based on this angle, or I'd have to be really quick with the hands, which can really cause some inconsistencies in the face. So a lot of players use getting the body open in an effort to delay it. These are players that their arms overtake them too quickly, ball hoiks to the left, and they want to be a little bit more delayed in that head. But I'm seeing it more and more. Players that are trying to get more open are leaving the face more and more open as well. So if you're a player that gets to the top and starts to spin open and hit shots like this, and I can feel my arms lagging behind me and I really struggle to get the club to meet the ball at the right time, then this is certainly a drill that I like to see. To stop the body getting open so early, so we can actually allow our arms to release and move back off our rib cage rather than staying across us for too long and struggling to hit it. This is the drill that I like to see, where you would set yourself up, you would go to the top, lift your left ankle, and then I want you to come down and I want you to stomp it in a closed fashion. So here you can see as I get to the top, I'm moving my heel out to the left, I come down. Now I've stopped or made it very, very difficult for my body to get open, meaning my arms are now going to have to release and kick. Otherwise, I'd physically miss the ball. So from here, we go to the top, we stomp closed. I now can't get open. And now something else is going to have to fire in an effort to hit the ball. So let me show you what that looks like. And I really felt my arms fly away from my body there. And here you can start to see the ball curving hard to the left again. Now, what I will say is it's a very odd drill. I would definitely start to perform it at very slow speeds to avoid injury, where you go to the top, slowly do it, and then perhaps hit some smaller shots to start. But again, I can feel my arms going past my body, which is actually acceptable to do when I am a player that leaves them across my body too much. So I hope this video makes perfect sense for players that struggle to release the club. Perhaps one of these three ways are the reason you're struggling to release the club. So drop me a comment below and let me know. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you could subscribe, it would really mean a lot. Thanks, and I'll speak to you soon.